Hello, everyone. Today I'm going to tell you a love story. A story that begins at an airport. A story about two strangers, two suitcases, and one very lucky mistake. Let's begin. It was a busy afternoon at Heathrow Airport in London. Thousands of people were coming and going. Families were hugging each other. Travelers were running to catch their flights. Announcements were echoing through the terminal. It was chaotic, noisy, and crowded. Among all these people was a young man named Liam. He was from the United States. He was 28 years old. He worked as a graphic designer. He had just finished a business trip in London and was waiting for his flight back to New York. He was tired, hungry, and just wanted to go home. Liam was carrying a black suitcase. It was a standard, simple black suitcase. Nothing special about it. He put it on the floor next to him while he bought a coffee at a small cafe near Gate 23. He paid for his coffee and sat down to wait for his flight. At the same time, not far from him, a young woman was also waiting for her flight. Her name was Carmen. She was from Spain. She was 26 years old. She worked as an architect. She had just visited London for a vacation. She was going back to Madrid. She was also carrying a black suitcase, almost exactly the same as Liam's. Carmen was talking on the phone with her mother. She was saying, "Yes, Mama, I'm fine. The flight is on time. I'll be home in a few hours. I bought you a gift. You're going to love it." She put her suitcase on the floor near the gate and continued talking on the phone. She was so distracted by the conversation that she didn't notice that another black suitcase was right next to hers. She said goodbye to her mother and checked her boarding pass. Then she looked at the suitcases. Both were black. Both were the same size. She didn't think twice. She grabbed one of them and walked toward the boarding gate. Liam finished his coffee and also walked toward the boarding gate. He grabbed the other suitcase and got in line. Neither of them noticed the mistake. Liam got on the plane. He put the suitcase in the overhead compartment and sat down. He was exhausted. He closed his eyes and fell asleep before the plane even took off. Carmen also got on her plane. She put the suitcase in the overhead compartment and sat down. She was excited to go home. She sent a quick message to her best friend saying, "I'm on the plane. See you soon." She turned off her phone and relaxed. Hours later, Liam arrived in New York. He took the suitcase and went home. He was so tired that he didn't open it. He just put it in the corner of his bedroom and went to sleep. Carmen arrived in Madrid. She took the suitcase and went home. She was also tired. She said hello to her family, ate dinner, and went to bed. The next morning, Liam woke up and decided to unpack his suitcase. He opened it and froze. Inside there were dresses, high heels, makeup, a hairdryer, and a small book of poetry. He looked at the clothes. They were clearly women's clothes. He looked at the book. It was in Spanish. He said to himself, "This is not my suitcase. Oh no, I took the wrong one." He started to panic. He looked inside the suitcase for any identification. He found a small tag with a name and a phone number. The name was Carmen. The phone number had a Spanish country code. He immediately called the number. It rang and rang. Then a woman's voice answered. "Hello, who is this?" Liam said, "Hello, is this Carmen?" "My name is Liam. I think we took each other's suitcases at the airport. I'm so sorry. I didn't realize Carmen was still half asleep." She said, "What? Wait, let me check." She ran to her bedroom and opened the suitcase she had brought home. Inside there were men's clothes. Suits, ties, shirts, and a laptop. She said, "Oh my God, you're right. This isn't my suitcase. I have your suitcase too." Liam laughed and said, "Well, this is awkward, but at least we found each other." Carmen said, "Yes, but what do we do now? You are in New York and I am in Madrid. We are very far apart." Liam said, "Don't worry. I can send your suitcase back to you. Just give me your address," Carmen said. "But what about your suitcase?" Liam said, "You can send it to me too. It's simple. We just have to exchange them." Carmen said, "Okay, let's do it. But first, let me make sure I have everything." She opened the suitcase again and looked inside. She said, "There is a laptop here." "Is it yours?" Liam said, "Yes, my work laptop. Please don't lose it. My boss will kill me." Carmen laughed and said, "Don't worry. I'll take good care of it." She paused and said, "There's something else here. A small photo. Is that you?" Liam said, "Yes, that's a photo of me with my grandmother. She passed away last year. I always keep that photo with me." Carmen said, "She looks lovely." I can see where you got your smile. Liam smiled. He said, "Thank you. That's very kind." Carmen looked in the suitcase again and said, "There's a small book here too." "It's in English. What is it?" Liam said, "Oh, that's my favorite poetry book. I never travel without it." Carmen said, "I love poetry. I have a book of poetry in my suitcase too. It's in Spanish. Did you see it?" Liam said, "Yes, I saw it. I didn't understand the words, but it looked beautiful." Carmen said, "It's my favorite book. My grandmother gave it to me." They continued talking for several minutes. They talked about the books, their families, their jobs, their favorite cities. They laughed at the situation. They realized they had a lot in common. They both loved poetry, traveling, and photography. They both had a grandmother who inspired them. They both were looking for something more in life. Liam finally said, "Listen, I don't want to hang up." "Is that crazy?" Carmen said, "No, I don't want to hang up either." Liam said, "Okay, how about this? Instead of sending each other suitcases by mail, what if we meet in person? We can exchange them and spend some time together. What do you think?" Carmen was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Meet in person? But we live in different countries." Liam said, "I know, but we can meet somewhere in the middle. We can meet in London." That's where we accidentally swapped the suitcases. It's poetic, don't you think? Carmen smiled and said, "Yes, it's very poetic." "Okay, Liam, let's meet in London." "Let's do it." A few weeks later, Liam flew back to London. Carmen also flew to London. They agreed to meet at the same cafe near Gate 23 at Heathrow Airport. Liam arrived first. He was nervous. He had butterflies in his stomach. He was wearing a nice shirt and holding Carmen's suitcase. He ordered a coffee and waited. Carmen arrived a few minutes later. She was wearing a beautiful red dress. Her long brown hair was loose. She was holding Liam's suitcase. She walked toward him and smiled. Liam stood up. He said, "Hi, you must be Carmen." She said, "And you must be Liam." They looked at each other and laughed. It was a bit awkward, but also magical. Liam said, "I didn't think you would be so beautiful in person." Carmen blushed and said, "I didn't think you would be so tall." They both laughed. Liam said, "Here is your suitcase." "I didn't open it again, I promise." Carmen said, "And here is yours." "I didn't touch anything." They exchanged the suitcases and sat down at a small table. They ordered coffee and started talking. They talked about their trips, their families, their dreams. They talked about the poetry books they both loved. They discovered that they even had the same favorite poet. Liam recited a poem from memory and Carmen was impressed. She said, "You are a romantic, aren't you?" Liam said, "Maybe I am, especially around you." They spent the whole day together in London. They walked through Hyde Park. They visited the British Museum. They had dinner at a small Italian restaurant near the river. They laughed, they talked, and they fell in love. As the sun was setting, they walked along the Thames River. Liam stopped and said, "Carmen, I know this is crazy. We just met in person today, but I feel like I've known you my whole life. I feel like the universe made us swap those suitcases so we could find each other." Carmen said, "I feel the same way. I thought it was just an accident, but now I think it was destiny." Liam took her hand and said, "I don't want to say goodbye to you." Carmen said, "Then don't. Let's find a way to be together." Liam said, "I'll move to Madrid. I can work from anywhere." Carmen said, "No, I'll move to New York. I love the city." They both laughed and said, "Okay, let's decide later. For now, let's just enjoy this moment." And that was the beginning of their love story. Weeks turned into months. They visited each other constantly. Liam went to Madrid and Carmen went to New York. They learned each other's languages. Liam learned Spanish and Carmen learned English. They laughed at each other's mistakes. He said, "How do you say I love you in Spanish?" She said, "Te quiero." He said, "Te quiero, Carmen." She said, "I love you too, Liam." 1 year later, Liam proposed to Carmen. He did it at the same cafe near Gate 23 at Heathrow Airport. He got down on one knee and said, "Carmen, we met because of a silly mistake with suitcases. But it wasn't a mistake. It was destiny. You are the most beautiful, kind, and inspiring person I have ever met. Will you marry me?" Carmen cried and said, "Yes, Liam. Yes, I will marry you," and now, years later, they are married. They live in New York. They have 2 children, a boy named Mateo and a girl named Lily. They speak English and Spanish at home. They travel to London every year to visit the cafe where it all began. Carmen still has the poetry book that was in her suitcase. Liam still has the photo of his grandmother. But now they also have a new book. A book of poems they wrote together. A book about their love story. A book called The Suitcase of Destiny. They tell their children the story of how two strangers, two suitcases, and one lucky mistake brought them together. They tell them that sometimes the best things in life happen by accident. That love can find you in the most unexpected places, even at an airport. And that, my friends, is the story of Liam and Carmen. What did you think? Have you ever had a lucky mistake? Do you believe in destiny? Write your answer in the comments below. And remember, sometimes you just need to open your suitcase and find love inside. See you next time.